welcome back to Mouthing Off with Mike, the only wrestling podcast that can go 0 to 60 in 10 seconds. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a very special guest. He is one half of the fantasy faction. I've got Luke. How are you tonight, Luke?
I'm good, Mike. How you doing, mate?
Oh, dude, I can't complain. This has been a long time coming.
Yes.
So we'll peel the curtain back a little bit. Fantasy Faction is one of the greatest things that could ever have been created within the wrestling content creation community. So I want to credit yourself and Anthony for coming up with Fantasy Faction. As for the creators that may not know about it, this is your time. I want to hear all about Fantasy Faction. Let the people know what you guys do.
Okay, so, well, you've heard of fantasy football, fantasy baseball. Everyone plays fantasy sports, right? Well, a lot of people do. Well, we saw that there wasn't too much of a market for fantasy pro wrestling, and it started privately. We were playing a game amongst friends. We just put a little spreadsheet together, and we thought it'd be fun to pick a few wrestlers here, score some points. And then started a little league. So we did that for a couple of years, and then thought, why not release it to the public? Ant, my co-host and cousin, and we started with a podcast during COVID, or just after COVID, and then we just kind of felt like, why not have all the people we've collaborated with and made friends with play this game with us and have some fun with it. So we released it a couple of years back. Our fantasy league game, and invited all these talented content creators and wrestlers and anyone within the wrestling space to come and play just a little bit of fantasy league with us. And we've found that over time we've built something of a community here, and people are connecting and people are collaborating, and it's really, really nice to see. So we're driving forward with this fantasy faction now, which has the main goal really is community, and positive community within the wrestling space, which I think is well needed. So we play that on our Instagram. All you do is direct message us with a squad of 10 wrestlers, and you score points on the shows each week, whether it be WWE, AEW, NXT, TNA, and Ring of Honor that we're doing right now. And we have a lot of fun with it. There's lots of different rules, lots of different curveballs each month, depending on what pay-per-views, what events are going on. And we have Mouthing Off with Mike, of course, playing with us. He finished 7th last round. Not bad. That's a tough round. That's SummerSlam round.
It was tough.
But yeah, so anyone who's listening, who's sort of similar to us in the space, and you want to have a little bit of friendly competition, but also be part of a growing, healthy, positive community, then jump aboard, say hello, send us a message. We'd love to have you.
Absolutely, ladies and gentlemen. Luke, seriously, that was beautiful, because that's what it's really all about. Yeah, we like to have fun. There's a little bit of some back and forth sometimes with some feuds and people, chopping it up, getting a little testy with the rankings. But at the end of the day, it is one of the most positive communities you could be a part of. So I 100%. This is not because he's here on the show, and I want to make sure I get some good points for the next round when we come out of All in Wembley. But 100% join Fantasy Faction. I will flash their Instagram handle up here on the screen for my audio listeners. That link will be in the description. If you're a wrestling content creator, if you're a podcaster, if you're an edit maker, if you just want to be involved, make sure you reach out to them because they run an incredible, dude. You and Anthony, dude, I'm going to tell you right now. Round of applause.
Cheers, mate. We appreciate that.
Because the organization, the keeping of the statistics, the knowing everybody's teams, everyone's factions. Are you approaching? We're approaching like almost 30 people now in the Fantasy Faction League. It's almost up to that point, right?
We just had 31. Kicking it with Leo recently joined, so he's going to join the next round, which is a big one, the Mark Madness tournament round. So we do a league format, but we're going to do a special tournament format too. So if anyone wants to join, we could squeeze a few people in late for the tournament. If you head over to our Instagram @the_fantasy faction, if you're curious.
There you go, folks. So make sure you do it. We got some numbers coming in. I cannot wait for Mark Madness. It is always a good time. I've been in the fantasy faction here for just over a year now. I think you guys reached out to me like very early on in my podcast career,
Yeah,
and
I think so.
I've been
Yeah,
with you guys ever
it's been a while.
since.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
love having you, mate. Thank
time
you for playing.
flies,
Thank you for being involved and
dude.
participating and everything. It's great. Really appreciate it.
Oh, dude, thank you for having me first and foremost. Like, don't ever thank me for how being there and joining the faction. Thank you for having me.
Hey, no, I'll
Period.
thank
All
you.
right.
I'll thank you if I want to. Hey, don't tell me not to thank you.
Yes, sir. I understood. I'm not going to get deducted
I'm
points for this
thanking
round's
harder.
factions. I'm going to thank you so hard. Oh my goodness. It's like the nightcap has come to mouthing off with Mike. Luke, talking about fantasy faction, talking about wrestling, let's talk a little wrestling if you don't mind. This past week, we had SummerSlam come from Cleveland, Ohio,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of rumblings that this was the greatest SummerSlam of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Where does SummerSlam 2024 rank for you in the history of SummerSlams? Was this one of the best ones that you've ever seen?
Oh, definitely one of the best ones ever. I don't think anyone can dispute that. When you talk about all time, it was the 37th SummerSlam, right? Something like that. So different eras, different generations. It's like when you're comparing, LeBron to Michael Jordan. It's like different eras. You just don't know. So obviously, my favorite. I think you might have asked me on our last pod Q&A my favorite SummerSlam. It's 2000, and I'm gonna have to go back and watch the highlights, long highlights of both shows. If I can call this one the greatest of all time, I don't know. But 2000 is kind of my measuring stick. 2001 was great. Top 5 SummerSlams easily, I will say, of all time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I like that. I definitely am right there with you. 2001, 2002 is one that, everybody, generally loves is 02.
Shawn Michaels return, yeah.
So how can you ever bet against the Heartbreak Kid? Now, when we look at the landscape of WWE, we've seen a lot of things shift at SummerSlam, particularly the mid-card divisions for the Intercontinental Championship and the United States Championship. Now, Logan Paul had hijacked and held hostage the United States title, and thankfully, LA Knight, won the title. And as well, Braun Breaker won the Intercontinental Championship from Sami Zayn. What do you think about Braun and LA Knight respectively winning these mid-card titles, as well as the fact that Braun's been doing it for 3 years, whereas LA Knight's been doing it for about 2.5 decades?
Yeah, LA Knight's definitely gone the long way, hasn't he? And I mean, that happens late in life, doesn't it? DDP was pretty late on. But no, the mid-card titles, it feels like a great reset. So I mean, similar to WrestleMania when the tag titles had a reset and such like, and they do that every so often. So now you feel excited going forward. It's a shift in the division, and two very different divisions too because of the champions holding them. So you've got Braun Breaker, who will seemingly hold on to that title for a while and have maybe a lot of quick matches and just run through a lot of people. It seems like they're going to just continue that formula. And then, with LA Knight, we finally got that that big moment. This was what we've been building up to since he came onto the main roster, right? They teased it for so long. Chance after chance, he was almost there, and now he's going to take that forward too. And it's great because he's still one of the most over guys on the roster. So anytime there's a US title match happening, the crowd's going to be electric for it. So I'm curious to see who they put in front of LA Knight because of the talking and the promos will be particularly good. And then, who's gonna be someone who actually challenges Braun Breaker and the domination that he's likely to go on now. So yeah, excited. It's an exciting move. Resetting both of them on the same night.
I agree. Very rare that we see, a lot of titles change hands at SummerSlam, and we'll talk a little bit about another one of those, two of those title changes here. But if you were to guess, a little too early to tell, who's the first challenger for Braun Breaker, and who's LA Knight's first challenger? A little fantasy booking.
Oh man. So who's up in the IC title division? He's on Raw, right?
Yeah.
So Braun Breaker is gonna go. I mean, I think Sami Zayn might still try and have one more go of it and take
Yeah.
that to a third match. Because they've done the 50-50 booking thing. They've had one win each. But I fancy Sami Zayn. But if not Sami Zayn, then Jey Uso
I like that.
for that one. And then LA Knight. So he needs a heel, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I would have said I want to see Pete Dunne go for gold again. I know he's in a program with Sheamus. Maybe they can interlock that feud in with the US title and have a three-way. I always push for triple threat matches because I don't know why, I've always liked them. They were always my favorite match on 2K. Always selected triple threats for some reason. So LA, well, do you know what? Someone from the Bloodline. Maybe Solo now does a little, I don't know, maybe a side mission, tries to take
Little
the
side
US
quest.
belt. Yeah, and then maybe that could throw LA Knight into the mix. There's talk of what faction is Roman going to put together. It seems obvious that the old bloodline is going to get back together, but you could have a group of people with Roman who he's who he's challenged previously. So like a Zayn, LA Knight, kind of a ragtag group of people now coming together for Reigns. So Solo versus LA Knight. I think it'll be.
I'm
I'd
not
like to see
mad
that.
at that. I mean, we're definitely lacking on the heel department in SmackDown because, like, when I look at Cody Rhodes and his title, I'm like, who would be the next heel for him? Because there's not that many, and I don't know why they drafted it like that, right? Like, I feel like when they did the draft, they didn't think about their faces being champions. Obviously, maybe Cody, but I don't think they thought about the mid card that much because there's not a lot of heels,
Right.
especially if LA Knight and both Cody Rhodes are babyface champions. So I like that Solo Sikoa shot. I thought Solo should have went for the US title before he challenged Cody Rhodes to begin with. So I wouldn't be mad at that. We talked a lot about title changes in the mid card. We saw the women's championship on SmackDown change hands to Nia Jax. How do you feel about Nia Jax being the champion on SmackDown?
I love it. I'm all for. I love it when a dominant woman is champion. There's just something different about it. Just seeming unstoppable and really hard to take the title off of. So Nia Jax is going to be hard to beat, and I'm glad she won it after winning Queen of the Ring, because it legitimizes that tournament now. Going into next year, you can say this is a pathway to the championship, much like the Royal Rumble is. So I'm all for it. Bayley was a great champion, and will be again. I hope Bayley's around for a long time. But the era of Nia is great, and more Bloodline gold, I guess.
That's a good point you bring up. Do you think maybe Solo tries to recruit her to the Bloodline?
Maybe, but then who does Roman recruit?
If
Tamina?
Jimmy, yeah, maybe. Oh, well, see, they released her, I think, or her contract ended or something. If anything, Naomi.
Naomi. Yeah.
Yeah. That was where
Naomi's a
my
shout.
head went to. And of course, last but certainly not least, we got to get into the Ring General, Gunther capturing the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, I asked my panel on the SummerSlam nightcap how long they think Gunther will hold the World Heavyweight Championship. I'm going to pose you the same question. What do you think? How many days will Gunther be World Heavyweight Champion?
At least 365.
At
Calling it
least.
now. 1 year. He's
I
going to
like
hit the
it.
1 year.
I think so.
Yeah.
You have to, right? After having a 666-day IC title run, you got to assume he's going to hold
Yeah.
the title for a while, at least.
Yeah. And he has to, because the thing that was great about his run, and one of the great things about Roman's run too, is the longer it goes, once you kind of ignore sort of the people who get bored and want a title change really quick, those voices start to die out. And then the longer the title reign goes, the more it slowly cooks, the better and better it seems. So Gunther, early on, it was great. He won the IC title and he defended it. And it was like, great, Gunther's the IC champ. But then it slowly turned into shit. Um, Gunther's the dominant IC champion, the unbeatable IC champion. So it's got to be a slow burn with Gunther. It looks like he's gonna knock off Randy Orton at the first try, which is big. That would be a big statement if he gets that. And then it's just gonna, it might be tepid for a bit. Which, Gunther's not a flashy guy. He's not sports entertainment, is it? So it's going to be a lot of. I hope to see a lot of sort of methodical wrestling matches and, kind of a slow down pace in that world heavyweight title division. Because the longer it goes, the more it's just going to seem impressive. And do you know what? I read a stat the other day. So Gunther's been in the WWE and NXT something like 2,000 days, something around the 2,000 mark, and he's been a champion for 1,500 at least. So
Wow.
it's insane. He just has it, gold round his waist just looks right. So yeah, 1 year, at least 1 year, calling it
At
now.
least 1 year. I said this as well. I said that this was probably, in my personal opinion. Now you can, of course, this is your opinion. I felt that match against Damian Priest was Gunther's best match. And he's had a lot of matches. And I could argue that his match with Ilya Dragunov, his series in NXT UK, you could argue was his best matches at that time. But since being on the main roster, do you feel that match with Priest was one of the best ones? Or do you feel that there were other matches he's had up to this point that were better?
Yeah, it's arguable since he's been on the WWE roster that is one of his best matches. One that springs to mind, I was in LA for when he was against Drew and Sheamus, and that was
Another one.
insane. I got to see him live when he beat Pete Dunne and took the UK title there, which I guess that was Walter days, wasn't it? And then, yeah, I mean, on the main roster, certainly you got to say top three, haven't you? I loved the fact that Finn's chops kind of buttered up his chest on Raw. So when Damien got a hold of him, he had the bleeding chest. So it really added to the drama. So that added to the match. You can't discount that because it's a whole package. It was a great match, solid match. And Damien Priest too is just more and more impressive by the month. Shame, timing can be a bad thing. Damien Priest could have held that title for 4 more months,
Yeah.
and it would have been great. But he'll be back there again. He's going to have a wicked babyface run now. So, but Gunther, yeah, that was a top match.
Absolutely. I agree. Yeah, I think you're right. I think more so maybe in the top 3, top 5 Gunther matches of his WWE career, quote unquote. That's a crazy stat, man. He's been like 1,500 something days as champion. He's just 840 something day reign with the UK championship, 666 with the Intercontinental, and now, a week in counting with the World Heavyweight Championship. So honestly, I agree with you. I said he's going to hold that title for about 400 some days. I put that right there, right around a year, right for a year. Wouldn't be shocked if somebody cashes in on him type vibe. But we got a couple more things I want to pick your brain about here, and then I'll let you get out of here.
All right.
2 things. Number 1, we're going to start with this, even though I should start with the other thing, but the only tribal chief returned spearing Solo Sikoa, hitting him with a Superman punch, and unintentionally helping Cody retain the championship, giving him the look of like, when the time is right, I'll be back for you.
Yeah.
What the hell are we about to see with Roman Reigns and the Bloodline? If you were to put your cap on and kind of spitball, like how do we get Roman, Jay, Jimmy, Sammy, or Roman and a new Bloodline going head to head with Solo's Bloodline? How do you think we get there if you were to give us some insight?
Do you know what? I'll say first, right? I feel like I've been in a fog for the last 4 months. And now since Saturday, it's like the sky's bluer, the grass is greener, the sun's shining, things seem right with the world again, don't they? We've got him back. He's back. Yes.
He's back, baby.
Oh, everything's good again. We're about to get a wicked babyface run, that's for sure. Very interested to see what kind of vibe he brings, because we're not going back to big dog babyface suffering succotash Roman. He's still got to have, he's still got to be a badass and ruthless. So we'll see how that goes. I think. So short term, I guess we're heading for a War Games in the next couple of months, right? Or is
Absolutely.
that November? Next 3 months?
Yeah, November. Yeah, so we got 2 PLEs. So they got 2 PLEs to build something.
Yeah. So shorter term is we've got to build Roman's team. And I know I said before we put together a rat pack of previous challengers who now like Roman again. I guess that would be good. Although, you want Cody and everyone else really to step away from the bloodline for a bit and just solely bloodline, just tighten that up a bit now, and don't get things too convoluted. So I think we're gonna see Jimmy back. I think we'll see. I think we'll see Jimmy and Jay. They'll figure it out somehow, and then Sami Zayn doesn't seem to be having a clear direction going forward. So honorary Uce, the return of the honorary Uce, imagine that. So I think that's where we're going. And I mean, like we said before, including Nia Jax and Naomi in that would be stellar. But yeah, I think we're going to see a tight bloodline feud just really heat up over the next few months, heading into War Games. And then longer term, I guess. I mean, we could talk about this for hours, but I think longer term, the final boss Roman is sending in, Solo's crew. I think he's the overlord of that crew, which is going to lead to Roman and Rock eventually. Yeah,
I would say you're right on the money, dude. Like straight up, I couldn't have said it any better. I think the same thing is going to happen. I think what I would like to see, and you can tell me if you'd be a fan of this, I'd like to see Roman talking with all of these people, Jimmy, Jay, Sammy, and showing up on Raw and being on SmackDown and calling them and saying, listen, I need you and I want to see pushback. Why would these guys come back to him? Right?
right.
He treated them like absolute. I'll use a quote from Mr. Gunther, the world heavyweight. He treated them like street trash for 4 years.
Yep.
And now you expect me to fight your battle with you, for you, against our family? I need it.
Here's I solve that. Roman. See, it's tricky because Roman, you don't want him to like quote unquote lose face by begging and saying like I need you, but he's got to prove himself. So what if a wacky idea? I don't know, this has been done before. What if Roman says, "Hey, Jimmy, Jay, Sammy, let's all have a fatal 4-way. Take it all out on me. Let's do it for one night, and then I'll prove that I need you guys. Like, lay into me. Give me my lumps. And if that earns you respect, then be on my War Games team or something like that." Could go there. That way, Roman seems tough. Everyone takes it out on Roman for a bit. That could be fun and wacky.
I mean, that's honestly a great idea. It's kind of an out of the box kind of idea. It's like, hey, look, trial by fire. That's it. Straight up.
That's a Vince
I got to
Russo
pay for
kind of
my
idea,
sins. I like it, dude. Cook. Shout out to Luke, man. Let him cook. Someone give him a pen. I don't have any pens by me. I got to pull them out of thin air.
WWE, give me a job. Give me a job.
Yeah, give the man a job, seriously. Like we need some new writers out there. Luke, last but certainly not least, we talked about it off the air. We talked about it, setting things up here. The Judgment Day. This is something that you talked about. You said that this has your full attention. So tell me about Liv Morgan and Dirty Dom finally showing their true colors. Well, Dirty Dom turning on Rhea at SummerSlam, kissing Liv Morgan, and now the Judgment Day's new leader is Finn Balor. So what are you liking about this, and what do you want to see happen here?
See, when Dom comes on my screen, those sunny days all of a sudden have a bit of a cloud in them. That guy, oh my god, he's so many people hate him right now. It's hilarious. The only guy to turn heel while being a heel, Dominic Mysterio. Yeah, I think we knew where it was going. I mean, you couldn't have Dom and Rhea stay together. The crowd want to chant for Rhea too much now, and so that's a natural progression of the storyline. What I'm really happy about is that they imploded the Judgment Day at the weekend, but then they kept them together, and now we have a new phase of the Judgment Day. Very wise move, because you've still got to have strong factions, and the Judgment Day and Bloodline have been top two for the last couple of years. The Wyatt Six are still getting going. Not a faction that you can yet put a whole show around. So it was great that the Judgment Day story keeps on going. It's progressing now. Rhea and Damian Priest, who have earned the cheers from the fans now, are going to have this wicked dominant tag team going forward, which eventually needs to recruit R-Truth and become the Terror Triplets. That has to happen.
Please.
Truth's got to finish his story. They took his tag titles back off him.
They did.
So he needs to finish that story again. So get R-Truth involved again. But yeah, it's the new Judgment Day now is I'm excited by that, because Finn is going to get more of a push at the front, and it's about time that he is I know they don't have leaders, but he's the biggest star in that group. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, him and Damien are going to have a wicked feud now. Liv and Rhea are going to keep it going. And depending on who you think is going to keep the women's title, if you're in Fantasy Faction and you have Rhea Ripley in your team and you think she's going to go on a dominant run, I don't know. Is she going to win the championship? If she doesn't, then she doesn't get those kind of points. So there's that element to it too. You've got to think about the points, Mike.
So I'm always thinking about the points, dude.
Always. So yeah, very happy that there's a new phase of Judgment Day, because now we have a new phase of the Bloodline cooking, and it's just things keep resetting and they're coming up with new levels to the stories. It's great. It's clear that Triple H is thinking about the little details. So yeah, I'm all for it.
I love it. I'm a big details guy. I don't know, I don't know if you've heard me say it. I'm mouthing off with Mike. I love the small details, and they did a lot of small details in the lead up to this separation and this branching off of the Judgment Day. Now, we saw the Bloodline split, and now there's two versions technically of the Bloodline, one pending, and now we have two kind of versions of the Judgment Day. What are your thoughts on, could we see a War Games match with the Judgment Day versus the Judgment Day and the Bloodline versus the Bloodline, or do you think that waters down those matches?
Oh, two in one night. That's a great question. I don't know. Trying to think how I feel about when Hell in the Cell's happening and there's, two or three.
Yeah.
You'd have to make those matches somehow uniquely different, have different types of War Games match. I don't know. My initial thinking is that it might be too watered down, but there is a case for both of those feuds to have that War Games match. I mean, Bloodline, we've had, that seems the most natural fit. I think you can do something else with Judgment Day, with the Judgment Day feuding. You can come up with some other match, and that seems to be, those matches are going to happen before Survivor Series, War Games. I think the Judgment
Yeah.
Day stuff's, I think, right there. So no, yeah, I think 2 might be too much in one night. It's a big match. It's there's a lot going on. It's heavy stuff. So
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I was just curious, I was thinking, I was like thinking about that the other week, and I was like, how could they feasibly do it? Because like then you're talking, like you said, like the Hell in a Cells, where we'd have like 3 Hell in a Cells in one night, and we're like, what's the point? This isn't how we do Hell in a Cell, not just because of a pay-per-view, but and that's what we're kind of falling into that territory right now with War Games, where it's like it's War Game season. It's like, here you go, here's your cage. So I just hope that they're able to effectively book the feuds around them. Luke, any final thoughts about pro wrestling, about Fantasy Faction, about anything? Now's your chance. Plug away. Tell the people, if this was an episode of Hot Ones, I'd tell you, look in that camera, tell the people what you got going on. But I'll tell you, just look in your camera, look at the people, tell the people what you guys got going on, you and Anthony, Fantasy Faction, and any final thoughts about wrestling?
So one thing that's really feeling good right now is the pro wrestling community at large seems like it's becoming more and more of a positive place. I think the last few years we've all, or a lot of us, have got bored of all the sort of negative online stuff and having it bleed out into shows and stuff like that. So I'm seeing a great turnaround, like being online like we are and doing what we do. We have our finger on the pulse. I think certainly the online community, the internet wrestling community. So I'm seeing a great turnaround in it, and that is coupled with our main goal, and it's community and what we're doing at Fantasy Faction. While we're having fun and having friendly competition, it's taken a life of its own. We honestly didn't start out thinking this thing's going to grow the wrestling community. We just wanted to play with some people, play some games. And then just people are being so nice and showing us firsthand how positive it all can be. So that's what we're driving forward. Again, like we said at the top of the show, if fantasy sports is your thing and you want to play a pro wrestling fantasy league, then find our Instagram at @the _fantasy faction or hashtag join fantasy faction. And you can find all kinds of talented content creators on there. Mouthing Off with Mike, of course. You may have heard of the Wrestling for Life Network, A to the K Wrestling, the Wrestling and the Nerds, all the way from Denmark. Shout out to them. Jobber Tears podcast are in there. We've got some heavy hitters in the wrestling content world, and we want to grow this positive community any way we can. If we're doing our little part and it's working, then great. That's all we want.
Hell yeah, Luke. Hell yeah. And that is what I've tried to tell the people all the time. I'm mouthing off with Mike on social media. There's so much stigma. There's so much negativity. You just got to avoid that negativity and find the good in the internet wrestling community. And ladies and gentlemen, as I look you square in the eyes, as I talk square in your ears on the audio side, you are not going to find better people in this community than with the Fantasy Faction, with Luke, with Anthony, his cohort. These guys are top of the notch, upper echelon. There's some great dudes. So I want to thank you, Luke, first and foremost, for taking time out of your night to chop it up with me, if I can get the words out. Chop it up with me, educate the people on Fantasy Faction, and just talk some wrestling. So, man, I'm super appreciative that you guys invited me in. It has been an absolute journey in any way, shape, or form that I can help grow Fantasy Faction for you guys without, making you work too hard. I will absolutely. So make sure you hashtag join Fantasy Faction. You follow them on Instagram. You'll see a flash across the screen here, as well as it's in the link in the description of this episode on the audio side. So, Luke, thank you so much, my man. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Mike. Can't wait to talk to you again. This was fun.
Absolutely. This is the whole point of why Fantasy Faction is great, because you get to collab with fellow creators. And finally, after we finally were able to chop it up here. But next time, we got to get the tag team. You two, you and Anthony, Mike and me. We're going to get Mike and Mike, Anthony and Luke, and we're going to have ourselves
that'll be a tag team for the ages. Yes.
Tag team battle for the ages. Maybe we'll do like some trivia or something. Maybe we'll end up locking up. Our good brothers, Four Sides of the Ring. I've been trying to get them to get in fantasy faction. They've been focused on 3-count trivia. Maybe we got to get you guys in the trivia. So
That would be fun, yeah.
I got to get you guys in there. So I'm going to talk to them. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen.
Boom. Let's set it up.
Let's set it up. Luke, thank you so much. Folks,
thank you, Mike.
Go follow these men. Go join Fantasy Faction if you're a creator. This has been Mouthing Off with Mike. We're out of here. See you guys.
See ya.
Mouthing Off with Mike. Mouthing Off with Mike. Mouthing Off with Mike.